Welcome back to Reason and Theology, fifth show for the day. Oh, it's been a busy day, but I wanted to cover this one. This is going to be a show where we cover some of the updates to the situation with the Carmelite Nuns in Texas. Bishop of Fort Worth, Bishop Michael Olson, has released a statement due to the Vatican having considered multiple appeals from the nuns and having made decisions. So we're going to take a look at what the Vatican has said in reference to those appeals from the nuns, what the bishop has said in response, also what the new superior for the Arlington convent um, has said about the situation in light of her attempt to visit the convent as the new superior. So a little bit of ground to cover here. So we're just going to go ahead and dive in. Now, of course, this is probably, I don't know, maybe the 10th video I've done covering this situation. There's a lot to it. So if you're not familiar with this situation, I mean, there's just a pretty long backstory, and I do have quite a few videos on this. So maybe just type in Texas Nuns on the channel here on Reason and Theology, and you'll find plenty of other material giving some background. And we're kind of, it appears that we're kind of at the tail end of this thing. Hopefully, we're coming to an end. I suppose the only thing remaining at this point is how the nuns will react. Though I think I can pretty easily predict how they're going to respond to this. I did notice before we dive into the updates from the last few days, I did notice that there was a statement released by Bishop Olson on April 20th that we did not touch on in the last show where we were talking about this subject. So let me briefly cover it. You'll recall the Carmelites in the Arlington Carmelites are effectively pushing against the Vatican's decisions, not only the bishop's decisions, but also the Vatican, and are really showing that they have some serious problems with obeying church authority. And of course, they were given a new superior appointed by the Vatican, and they quickly responded and said they're not going to accept this new superior, and the new superior is not welcome on their property. Bishop's not welcome on their property, which effectively means they're schismatics. But the bishop responded to their response and said this on April 20th. The most recent statement, April 20th, 2024, of the Arlington Carmel's former leadership is sad and troubling because it manifests a skewed and selective misunderstanding of the nature of the Catholic Church and the charism of the monastic life. Yeah. It is a slap at the nuns who are their sisters in the Carmelite order. It's an apparent rejection of the ministry of the Holy See's dicastery for institutes of consecrated life and societies of apostolic life. Yeah, that's a nice way to say that they're effectively schismatic. The Holy See has acted in a way to promote and foster unity in Christ for the healing of the Arlington Carmel and of each of the nuns who are members of the community, not simply the former prioress and her former counselors. The former prioress, Mother Teresa Agnes, was relieved of her duties as prioress because she admitted to some inappropriate interaction with another priest. Seems to be through electronic communication. She admitted to this in audio tapes that we listened to. But then shortly after that, the nuns pretty much started to push back against the decisions of the bishop and even attempted to take him to court. In fact, they did take him to court, sued the bishop. The lawsuit got thrown out. But it was very problematic and scandalous behavior on their part. He says this is an internal church matter that the former prioress continues to attempt to exploit in the civil court in which it has no standing. Right. Please pray for all the nuns that they accept the legitimate leadership of their association entrusted to them by the Holy See. Well, it appears to me they're not going to. So the question is, what's the next step? What is the bishop going to do next? Are there going to be some excommunications? Surely this situation can't continue the way it is. They surely cannot continue to retain the name Catholic. So we'll see how that goes. So he released a statement yesterday, that is Bishop Olson, in light of 4 decisions by the Holy See. Because you remember, the nuns attempted to appeal the bishop's decision. Three things were upheld. 3 decisions of the bishop were upheld, and 1 was overturned. So we're going to examine each one of these and then take a look at the statement of the bishop and again, then the statement from the new superior. So let's take a look at the first one. Decree rejecting recourse against the investigation. Let's zoom in on that a little bit. See if I can get it a little bit larger. In April 2023, the Most Reverend Michael Olson, Bishop of Fort Worth, Texas, received information from the Reverend Jonathan Wallace, Vicar General of the Diocese of Fort Worth, that the Reverend Mother Teresa Agnes Gerlach of Jesus Crucified, OCD, prioress of the Holy Trinity Monastery in Arlington, Texas, had told him that she had violated the 6th commandment of the Decalogue on 4 different occasions with a priest from outside the Diocese of Fort Worth. And again, I even played audio of her admitting to this. So it's indisputable. On April 24th, 2023, Bishop Olson issued a decree ordering the opening of an investigation in the order to ascertain the truth of the facts regarding the allegations that Mother Teresa Agnes had violated the 6th commandment of the Decalogue with an adult male. On October 24, 2023, Bishop communicated with Mother Teresa Agnes via text message and telephone about his desire to meet with her on April 25th, 2023, on a grave matter of importance regarding the life of the Carmel. The bishop, after learning that Mother Teresa Agnes would undergo surgery on April 25th, agreed that he would meet on April 24th before the surgery. That's important because there were people making false claims that she had already went through the surgery and therefore was under pain medication, and therefore when she had spoken in the audio messages, she was under the influence of drugs. Because the bishop wanted to speak to her prior to her being placed under the effect of an anesthetic. The meeting took place as planned, and during the meeting, Mother Teresa Agnes confirmed the truth of the previous revelations made to the diocesan vicar general. The meeting was electronically recorded. That's the one that I played to y'all. The whole thing. Which really did vindicate the bishop and exposed a lot of the slander coming from the other side. On May 2nd, 2023, the recurrent sent the Bishop of Fort Worth a remonstratio requesting that the April 24th decree be revoked. By decree dated May 3rd, 2023, served on May 10, the Bishop of Fort Worth responded, rejecting the request and confirming his own decree of April 24th. Therefore, Mother Teresa Agnes on May 16, 2023, sent to this dicastery her petition received on May 9th for the hierarchical recourse against the decree of April 24th. So she kind of appealed the decision. The juridical relationship between the bishop and the monastery in question has been established in Canon 615, which reads as follows. An autonomous monastery which does not have another major superior besides its own moderator. It is not associated to another institute of religious in such a way that the superior of the latter possesses true power over such a monastery, as determined by the constitutions, is entrusted to the special vigilance of the diocesan bishop according to the norm of the law, which would be Bishop Olson. In 2020, the Carmelite community located in the Diocese of Fort Worth, Texas, was one of the 7 communities of Discalced Carmelite nuns petitioning this dicastery to erect a new association of Discalced Carmelite nuns according to the Cor Orans standards. At the time of the petition, Arlington Monastery was under the jurisdiction of the Provincial of Discalced Carmelites and observed the 1991 constitutions. Thus, on August 10, 2020, the monastic community petitioned this dicastery to be allowed to join the new Association of Christ the King, to be allowed to change its jurisdiction from the Provincial of the Discalced Carmelites to that of our diocesan bishop, and they're quoting here, and to move from observance of the 1991 Constitution to those of 1990. So they admitted they are under that diocesan bishop, which again exposes more lies, because some in that camp were attempting to say that they're not under the bishop, they're directly under the Pope. Not that they listen to the Pope anyway, clearly, but they tried to play that game, and yeah, that was wrong. This request was made by unanimous vote on October 17, 2018, of the nuns of Arlington Monastery, who agreed to submit themselves to the special vigilance of the diocesan bishop in accordance with Canon 615. The request also received the written approval of His Excellency Bishop Olson, as well as the Provincial of the Discalced Carmelites. In Bishop Olson's letter of approval of 2019, December 30th, sent to this dicastery, he stated, "I understand and accept the change in jurisdiction that this decision entails, whereby I and my successors will now retain jurisdiction over this monastery in accordance with Canon 615 and the responsibilities outlined in Cor Orans." So, I mean, they both agreed he has responsibility over the monastery or convent. On October 23rd, 2020, this dicastery issued a decree accepting the request of the Discalced Carmelite Nuns of Arlington, made with the consent of the Superior General of the Discalced Carmelite Fathers and the acceptance of the Bishop of Fort Worth, to transfer from the special supervision of the Order of Discalced Carmelite Fathers to the jurisdiction of the Bishop of Fort Worth for the reasons presented. With this act, Canon 615 became the foundational basis of the bishop's claim to have the right and duty to exercise supervision over Arlington Monastery, a legal fact not disputed by Mother Teresa Agnes's appeal. What is disputed is the scope and limits of this supervision, which are not agreed upon by either party. Well, in fairness, actually there were people in that camp disputing that he had any authority over them. As noted above, Mother places limits on the bishop's vigilance to the matters contained in the following canons: 628, paragraph 2, 630, paragraph 3, 637 on the rendering of accounts and matters of administration of property, 667, paragraph 4, and 688, paragraph 2 on the confirmation of an indult. The appellant, however, ignores Canon 628, paragraphs 2 and 3, and cites Cor Orans Articles 75, paragraph 3, and 80 through 83, which further outlines this special supervision. In other words, they did not account for some other canons that does give the bishop authority to do what he has done concerning canonical visitation, concerning his measures against or in relation to confessors at the monastery, administration of property, seclusion, and so on. They didn't account for these other canons, so the dicastery is pointing that out. And then it tells you the canons, it quotes the canons. It is the right and duty of a diocesan bishop to visit and even with respect to religious discipline, the autonomous monasteries mentioned in Canon 615, individual houses of an institute of diocesan right located in his own territory. Members are to act with trust toward a visitator, to whose legitimate questioning they are bound to respond according to the truth and charity. Moreover, it is not permitted for anyone in any way to divert members from this obligation or otherwise to impede the scope of the visitation, which, they seem to be in conflict with. So honestly, it looks like whoever was advising them canonically, maybe needs to consider a new career. This canon relates directly to Canon 615 cited above and gives the diocesan bishop the right to visit the monastery, including the observance of religious discipline. Moreover, paragraph 3 clearly urges religious to answer truthfully the questions put to them so as not to hinder the visitation. The canon does not limit the kind of questions concerning religious discipline that can be questioned. Certainly, a serious infraction of the law in matters of governance, finance, and behavior must be provided for as a matter for the bishop to investigate. This canon permits a visitation that has all the components of an investigation, but it does not determine how such visits that reveal disciplinary problems are to be solved. Therefore, since the bishop has received information that the prioress has admitted sins against the sixth commandment, Bishop Olson did the following. On the basis of the mother's admissions, decided to initiate an investigation by issuing a decree on April 24, 2023, to further establish the facts and circumstances of the allegations, made a visit to the monastery to inquire in the presence of witnesses about the facts that Mother Teresa Agnes had revealed, question other sisters about their knowledge of these facts. See, that's what this is really about. It's not about a property dispute, as the critics tend to suggest. It's not what this is. He saw a real problem, and he was responding to a real problem, as he had the right and duty to do. In addition, there is nothing in universal or particular law to support Mother Teresa Agnes's claim in her appeal that in cases such as the present, it is necessary to elect a new superior in accordance with the law who can conduct the investigation itself, the diocesan bishop having no competence in this matter. Again, I don't think that Mother Teresa came up with this stuff by herself. She had to have been advised by somebody, some kind of lawyer, who really needs to reconsider a different career. Wendy's is hiring. McDonald's is hiring. Might need to consider that. The April 24th, 2023 decree initiating the investigation clearly provides the reason for the investigation, namely Mother Teresa Agnes's violation of the sixth commandment of the Decalogue and the vow of chastity. Given the vagueness of her admissions, further investigation into the facts surrounding Mother Teresa Agnes's admission of sexual misconduct was needed. Conclusion. From the actions taken by Bishop Olson in response to Mother Teresa Agnes's admission that she violated her vow of chastity, the following can be inferred. That upon learning from the diocesan vicar general of Mother's admission, the bishop immediately decreed the opening of an inquiry into the matter, that in the present matter, since the prioress, who is the major superior of a monastery, sui juris, is the offender, and given that her vicar was obstructing the investigation. Yeah, she got called out too. The vicar got called out too. Therefore, it is the duty of the diocesan bishop, who has special vigilance over the monastery, to intervene and investigate the matter. That it has been shown that the decree opening the investigation did not lack constituent elements, particularly with regards to fumus juris. That it is proven that the good name of the plaintiff was not unlawfully damaged by the decree, but that any damage caused was really self-inflicted by her pursuing the tactic of suing the bishop in civil court. And they called her out. Whoa. Yeah. It's not the bishop who harmed her reputation. She did that herself. Not only by her actions, not only by her admission, but by also then actually suing the bishop in civil court. Wherefore, having evaluated the documents in possession of this dicastery, and after hearing the opinion of the Congress of the same dicastery on March 12, 2024, this dicastery for institutes of consecrated life and societies of apostolic life, for the reasons above presented with this decree, rejects, in accordance with the Canon 1739, the appeal of Mother Teresa Agnes, and thereby reaffirms the validity of the decree issued by the Bishop of Fort Worth on April 24, 2023. Anything to the contrary notwithstanding, given at the Vatican April 30th, 2024, signed by the prefect and the secretary. So they upheld Bishop's decision and denied her appeal. I think their last Hail Mary here was hoping somehow the Vatican was just going to overturn all this, since the Vatican isn't going to do that, hasn't, and has rejected that approach or that hope. What's their response going to be? I suspect, given their current trajectory, it is going to be to reject the Vatican decree, and we're going to see some excommunications because it's clearly schismatic. So I don't think they're all of a sudden gonna say, okay, fine, we'll go along with it, Vatican. Not from everything we've seen from them so far. Uh, but hey, we can hope, right? We can hope they'll do the right thing. Okay. TJ Brown says Wendy's wouldn't take them even if even they require loyalty. Oh no, I'm talking about whoever's advising them canonically. They might need to consider a new job. AutoZone, Chick-fil-A, whoever advised them severely failed them. All right, so this is again a second rejection against leave of absence. Okay, in April 2023, the Most Reverend Michael Olson, Bishop of Fort Worth, Texas, received information from the Reverend Jonathan Wallace, Vicar General of the Diocese of Fort Worth, that the Reverend Mother Teresa Agnes of Jesus Crucified, OCD Prioress of the Holy Trinity Monastery in Arlington, Texas, had told him that she had violated the sixth commandment of the Decalogue with a priest from outside the Diocese of Fort Worth. On April 24, 2023, Bishop Olson issued a decree ordering the opening of an investigation in order to ascertain the truth of the facts regarding the allegations of Mother Teresa Agnes Gerlach, OCD, a perpetually professed member of the Order of Discalced Carmelites, had violated the sixth commandment of the Decalogue with an adult male. On April 24, 2023, Bishop Olson separately decreed the following. I, Most Reverend Michael F. Olson, Bishop of the Diocese of Fort Worth, place you in a precautionary suspension from office, a leave of absence, which decree is subject of the recurrence recourse. We actually heard that in the audio after she admitted to it. So y'all probably remember that. On May 4th, 2023, the plaintiff sent the Bishop of Fort Worth a remonstratio requesting that the April 24th decree be revoked. By decree dated May 5th, 2023, the Bishop of Fort Worth responded, rejecting the request and confirming his own decree of April 24, 2023. Therefore, against the decree of April 24, 2023, Mother Teresa Agnes on May 19th, 2023, sent her petition for hierarchical appeal to this dicastery. So, another appeal. 2 out of 4. The appellant claims that the Bishop of Fort Worth's decree constitutes a precept of a penal nature. However, the restrictions imposed were precautionary in nature, not imposed as part of a penal trial or as part of an administrative penal process. There's nothing in the Code of Canon Law preventing the competent ecclesiastical executive authority from issuing a precept under Canon 49 of the Code of Canon Law, which at the same time threatens provisions for noncompliance. The recurrent argues that the diocesan bishop does not have the competence to execute such a precept. She argues that episcopal oversight is limited to Canon 615 by the clause ad normam juris. Mother Teresa Agnes further limits the bishop's vigilance to the matters contained in the following canon: 628, paragraph 2, 630, paragraph 3, 637, 667, paragraph 4, 688, paragraph 2. The appellant, however, ignores canon 628, paragraphs 2 through 3, and Cor Orans, articles 75, paragraph 3, and 80 through 83. Again, pointing out to them, you're ignoring these canons. Again, I don't think that Mother Teresa is some expert on canon law. Again, I suspect she was advised by some canon lawyer very poorly, which further outlines this special supervision by the diocesan bishop. And then it reads those same canons to y'all that we just read. This canon relates directly to Canon 615. It gives the diocesan the right to visit a monastery sui juris, even with respect to religious discipline. Moreover, paragraph 3 clearly urges religious to answer truthfully the questions put to them so as not to hinder the visitation. The canon does not limit the kind of questions concerning religious discipline that can be questioned. Certainly, a serious infraction of the law in matters of governance, finance, and behavior must be considered as matters subject to the bishop's investigation. This canon permits a visitation that has all the components of an investigation, but does not determine how such visits that reveal disciplinary problems are to be resolved. The suspension of the plaintiff's office as prioress was clearly administratively imposed for the welfare of Mother Teresa Agnes and the good of the monastery. I mean, yeah. The precautionary suspension from the office imposed on the recurrent and the accompanying restrictions were lawful, reasonable, necessary, and proportionate, though they were claiming that they weren't. They took into consideration her rights and at the same time took into her account her admitted offenses as a religious. I mean, I have to say, he was so nice to her. In that audio, he was so nice to her. I can only pray I will ever be that patient and kind to people, because I would have handled it a little differently. Conclusion, wherefore, having evaluated the documents in possession of this dicastery and after hearing the opinion of the Congress of the same dicastery of March 12, 2024, this dicastery for institutes of consecrated life and societies of apostolic life for the reasons above presented with this decree rejects, in accordance with Canon 1739, the appeal of Mother Teresa Agnes. So another one of her appeals, and thereby reaffirms the validity of the decree imposing precautionary measures on the recurrent issues by the Bishop of Fort Worth on April 24, 2023, which was basically suspending her. Anything to the contrary notwithstanding, giving at the Vatican April 30th, 2024, prefect and secretary. Okay, so that's 2 out of 4. Not looking good for the nuns. This is the third one. Decree rejecting recourse against warning to the community. In April 2023, the Most Reverend Bishop Olson received information from the Vicar General that the Reverend Mother Teresa Agnes told him she had violated the Sixth Commandment. April 26, 2023, Bishop Olson issued an admonition which warned the members of the Monastery of the Most Holy Trinity in Arlington, Texas, that subsequent obstruction of my efforts to conduct the aforementioned investigation and subsequent outside communication could result in the imposition of penalties. So stop obstructing my investigation and outside communication. This could result in penalties. Against the decree, the 9 members of the monastery. Now, let me pause there. This whole fiasco is because of 9 nuns. We're not talking 900 nuns. 9 people. All of this for 9 nuns. All of this chaos caused by less than 10 people. A convent with less than 10 people. Against this decree, the 9 members of the monastery presented on May 8th, 2023 to the Bishop of Fort Worth a remonstratio requesting its revocation. By a decree dated May 10th, 2023, the Bishop of Fort Worth responded, rejecting the request and amending it, stating, I hereby warn in accordance with Canon 697, paragraph 1 of the Code of Canon Law, Canon 1347, paragraph 1, 1371, paragraph 1, each member of the Monastery of the Most Holy Trinity in Arlington, Texas, the subsequent obstruction of my efforts to conduct the aforementioned investigation and subsequent outside communication could result in the imposition of penalties, not excluding an interdict of that member and her dismissal from the order of Discalced Carmelites for stubborn disobedience to the legitimate prescripts of superiors in a grave matter. Canon 696, paragraph 1. So, warning saying, hey, keep it up. Penalties are coming. Then on May 25th, 2023, the 9 members of the monastery filed hierarchical appeal against the decree on May 10th, 2023. And so here we are, third appeal. Argument 1, lack of competence. In their joint appeal, the 9 members of the monastery argue that the jurisdiction of the diocesan bishop, example Canon 615, is limited by the canonical clause ad normam iuris. Reply. The special vigilance of the diocesan bishop over a monastery sui iuris is to be exercised within the boundaries of his diocese, as stated in Canon 615. However, no reference was made in the nuns' appeal to cor orans, which further specifies such vigilance and competencies. And guess what it cites? The same ones that it cited before, the same ones that they overlooked, Articles 75 and 8 through 83. In other words, you guys, again, were not competent to make these determinations, and whoever you advised you also wasn't sufficiently competent to advise you on this matter. The special or argument to denial of the right to defense. The sisters argued that the bishop's competence to impose an admonition threatening canonical criminal prosecution on all individual members of the perpetually vowed religious community of the monastery, which resulted from the preliminary inquiry into Mother Teresa Superior's conduct, fails to state the indication of the cause of dismissal expressly required by Canon 697, number 2, and especially denies the sisters the possibility of putting in place all their defenses. Reply from the Vatican: it is clear that the canonical admonition on April 26, 2023 to the members of the community clearly indicated the cause of the canonical admonition itself. The bishop claims that shortly after initiating the preliminary investigation, he encountered obstruction by some members of the monastery. And he says, obstructions to my efforts to conduct the investigation of Mother Teresa Agnes admitted sexual misconduct. By the way, is it really hard to believe that he encountered obstruction from a group that says the bishop can't come to our property, the new superior can't come to our property? Yeah, they fit the bill of obstruction. I can't believe people are still out there defending the nuns. It's amazing, the gaslighting. Some members who sought to foment animosity and or hatred against me because of my acts of ecclesiastical office. Thus, the admonition warned against willful disobedience to the legitimate prescriptions of superiors in serious matters. Argument number 3, the nature of the precept. The nuns challenged the admonition's threat to impose sanctions. Their argument complains that the formula imposition of penalties, not excluding, makes the punishment entirely indeterminate, since it remains open to countless other penalties. Reply: Canon 1371, paragraph 1, states that by disciplinary precepts, the competent ecclesiastical executive authority may threaten certain penalties. In the present case, the sanction threatened was specified, namely interdict. And yeah, he did say that. For this reason, the bishop cited Canon 1347, paragraph 1, which states that for the imposition of the penalty to be valid, notice must be given. Observations. The juridical relationship between the bishop and the monastery in question is established by Canon 615, which reads as follows, and then it reads Canon 615 to us again. By this act, Canon 615 has become the foundational basis of the bishop's claim to have the right and duty to exercise supervision over the Arlington Monastery, a legal fact not disputed by the appeal of the monastery monastic community, maybe not officially. What is disputed is the scope and limits of this supervision, which are not agreed upon by either party. The appellants ignore Canon 628, paragraphs 2 through 3, and Cor Orans, Articles 75, 3, and 80 through 83. Again, citing the same stuff because, again, this is the stuff they ignored all along, which further delineates this special vigilance. It's funny how literally every one of these appeals were the direct result of them ignoring other canons and Cor Orans and its articles. And then it reads the relevant material to us, which we already read. This canon relates directly to Canon 615, against the diocesan bishop the right to visit the monastery, including to question them about their observance of religious discipline. Moreover, paragraph 3 clearly urges religious to answer truthfully the questions put to them so as not to hinder the visitation. So, I mean, all that stuff about, oh, he's terrorizing us, he's harassing us. He had the right to ask questions, to open this investigation, and they had no right to obstruct his investigation. The canon does not limit the kind of questions concerning religious discipline that may be presented. Certainly, a serious infraction of the law in matters of governance, finance, and behavior must be provided for as matters for the bishop to investigate. This canon permits the type of visitation that has all the components of an investigation, but it does not determine how such visits that reveal disciplinary problems are to be resolved. Conclusion. In conclusion, it is determined that all the canonical elements necessary to produce a valid canonical admonition are found in the bishop's amended admonition on May 10th, 2023, lawfully served to the members of the Carmelite Monastery of Holy Trinity, Arlington. The members of the monastery legitimately exercise their right of defense by submitting a remonstratio to the bishop and subsequently to this dicastery. Wherefore, having evaluated the documents in possession of this dicastery, and after hearing the opinion of the Congress of the same dicastery on March 12, 2024, this dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, for the reasons above presented with this decree, reject, third rejection, reject, in accordance with the canon of 1739, the individual appeals of the 9 members of the Arlington Carmel, and thereby reaffirms the validity of the decree imposing the precept and admonition on the recurrence issued by the Bishop of Fort Worth on May 10, 2023. Anything to the contrary notwithstanding, given at the Vatican April 30th, 2024, Prefect and Secretary. 3 out of 4 rejected. Okay. Now, there was one appeal that was accepted and one decision of the bishop that was overturned. And that was not removing the prioress, Mother Teresa Agnes, from her position as prioress. That has been maintained. And the Vatican has already appointed a new prioress. But the bishop removed her also from the community. And they reversed to that and said, no, she can still be part of the community. With the decree issued by the diocesan bishop of the Discalced Carmelite Nuns of the Monastery of Most Holy Trinity on June 1st, 2020, Mother Teresa Agnes was dismissed from the above mentioned institute for reasons of delicts committed by her against the Sixth Commandment of the Decalogue and for stubborn disobedience. Canon 696. On July 3rd, 2023, Mother Teresa Agnes sent this dicastery her full recourse against the aforementioned decree of dismissal. The dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, upon the completion of an examination of the facts, circumstances, and proceedings in this matter, finds in favor of the recurrent Mother Teresa Agnes, given invalidating errors both in procedendo and in decerrendo in the execution of the case for dismissal lodged against her. Therefore, this curial institution finds as follows. Firstly, the allegations charged to the recurrent regarding her admitted misconduct against the Sixth Commandment does not prove that these acts were perpetuated by the exertion of force or violence or by her abusing her ecclesiastical authority as prioress. So, yes, she's guilty of these acts, and so she was rightly removed as prioress, but she can't be removed from basically the Carmelite nuns and the consecrated life upon these grounds, which I think is a little silly, to be honest with you, but okay. And that is because she did not exert force or violence, or use her ecclesiastical authority as prioress in these acts of, sexual misconduct or whatever you want to call it, these sexual sins. The argument advanced by the bishop claims that Mother Teresa Agnes abused her authority because as prior she had the unique privilege of having access to electronic means of communication, which allowed her to establish contact with her accomplice. That's true. But this argument does not prove that the misuse of her exclusive access to a cell phone and the internet access constituted an act of abuse of authority perpetuated to coerce another person to perform a sexual act. Additionally, Mother Teresa Agnes possessed no real or even imagined authority over her alleged accomplice, a grown man and ordained cleric. He's a priest, which could have made him subject to Mother Teresa Agnes's authority as prioress. So because he's not under her authority, so it's a little technicality. It's kind of silly. Secondly, the additional grounds for the dismissal of the recurrent refer to her grave disobedience to the legitimate precept of a superior. That's Canon 696, paragraph 1. That seems to me a little bit more relevant. It is established that in the execution of the process for dismissal, Mother Teresa Agnes was not afforded the full 15 days allotted to respond fully to the canonical warnings. Since the aforementioned procedural element is to be considered necessary by the universal law of the Church, this grave deficiency invalidates the recurrence dismissal on the grounds of Canon 697, paragraph 1. So because she didn't have 15 days to respond, this particular canon can't be used to dismiss her from the consecrated life. So in other words, it normally could be if she had been given 15 days to respond, but because she wasn't given 15 days to respond, you can't use this canon. So she gets off by a technicality on this point. So she gets to be a nun, in other words. She still gets to be a nun. Okay. Wherefore, having evaluated the acts and possession of this dicastery and having ascertained that both the recurrent and the Bishop of Fort Worth have been accorded the faculty to express their observations, and having also heard the opinion of the Congresso of the Dicastery of March 12, 2024, the same dicastery, for the reasons stated and with the present decree, accepts in accordance with Canon 1739 the appeal in question, and thereby nullifies the decree of the dismissal of Mother Teresa Agnes from the Discalced Carmelite Nuns of the Monastery of the Most Holy Trinity issued by the diocesan bishop on June 1, 2023. Anything to the contrary notwithstanding, given at the Vatican April 30th, 2024, prefect and secretary signed. So she gets to remain a nun for the monastery. A moot point, because doesn't appear to me that this monastery is going to remain in formal communion for very long. It's pretty clear that they've already materially entered into schism. As far as formal schism and formal excommunications, I think that's what's coming next. So kind of a moot point. Okay, you get to be a nun in a schismatic community. You know, unless they do a really serious about face and start to comply with the local bishop and the Pope, it's not going to matter at the end of the day. So it's really not a win for them. But there it is. Okay. So we got a statement from the bishop and then a statement from the prioress when she attempted to go to the monastery. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment, right after this.
For a little girl growing up Catholic today, will she ever participate as a clergy member in the church?
No. He shut that down.
Hey friends, I'm now teaching as an adjunct professor at Catholic Polytechnic University, and I am excited to announce that we will be offering the first ever Magisterial Studies Certificate program. It consists of 3 courses: an introduction to the magisterium, councils, dogmas, canons, and decrees, and evaluating magisterial teachings. If you want to further your education and learn more about Catholic teaching authority, this is the program for you. Check out catholicpolytechnic.org and click on the certificate tab at the top to sign up for the course today.
Okay, so we are going to go ahead and read what the bishop has said. May 22nd, Bishop Olson. Show my screen. Okay, here we go. That's weird. Let me stop the screen and try it again. Some kind of strobe light effect there. There we go. Okay. Statement to the faithful of the Diocese of Fort Worth by Bishop Olson in response to the Dicastery for Institute of Consecrated Life upholding decisions regarding the Arlington Carmel. May 22nd. On May 21st, the Dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, they need to get a shorter name. Come on. Informed me that it has upheld the decisions I made last year opening the investigation at the Arlington Carmel upon receiving information that Mother Teresa Agnes had violated the 6th commandment of the Decalogue and her vow of chastity, placing Mother Teresa Agnes on a leave of absence following her admissions of grievous misconduct and admonishing the members of the monastery that obstruction of the investigation could result in the imposition of penalties All decisions were made for the good of Mother Teresa Agnes and the Arlington Carmel and its sisters in accordance with my obligation under canon law and the rule and constitutions of the Arlington Carmelites as local bishop. The dicastery has also informed me that it overturned the decree of dismissing Mother Teresa Agnes from the Carmelite order. Although the dicastery acknowledged that Mother Teresa Agnes admitted to misconduct against the sixth commandment of the Decalogue, they reason in part that her admission did not establish that the misconduct was perpetuated by the exertion of force or violence. Additionally, the dicastery reasoned in part that her admission of misconduct did not establish abuse of her ecclesiastical authority of prioress, since she possessed no real or even imagined authority over her accomplice, a priest of the Diocese of Raleigh, since he was not subject to Mother Teresa Agnes's authority as prioress. This priest refused to cooperate with our investigation. Did you hear that? I didn't know that until I read this. So the priest, according to the bishop, refused to cooperate with the investigation into the admissions made by Mother Teresa Agnes. Not a good look for that priest. Bishop, where you at? The priest, who's the bishop of Raleigh? He needs to do something about that. That's going to blow up in your face. That's a massive red flag. The priest not wanting to cooperate with an investigation about him allegedly participating in sexually immoral acts, doesn't want to cooperate. Red flag, red flag. Look into that, bishop, before this blows up in your face and you find out something else happened. As the bishop of Fort Worth, I was also obliged under Vos Estis Lux Mundi to report Father Philip G. Johnson. So that is the priest, Father Philip G. Johnson. Parishioners, perhaps, of Father Philip G. Johnson, if he has any, need to be asking him questions. Hey, Father, how come you didn't want to participate in this investigation? Well, at least the bishop's saying you didn't want to. Is that true? Ask questions. Ask questions. Maybe he's innocent. Maybe there's nothing here. But that's a massive red flag. And that needs to be looked into. Because that could be a sign of deeper problems. Possibly. Let's hope not. The Raleigh priest, named by Mother Teresa Agnes as participating with her in the acts against the Sixth Commandment of the Decalogue and in violation of her vows. I made that report approximately 1 year ago and have regularly inquired about the progress of their investigation into the priest's role in the misconduct revealed by Mother Teresa Agnes. I still await the results of the investigation into the misconduct I reported to the Diocese of Raleigh for the sake of transparency and accountability for all involved. Bishop of Raleigh, where you at? Let's see who it is. Oh, Raleigh, North Carolina. Isn't that the place that Andy Taylor's always talking about? Raleigh. Let's see. Reverend Luis Rafael Zerama, Bishop. Doesn't ring a bell. Doesn't look familiar. Yeah. Bishop might want to look into this. might want to give us an update to be transparent here. Kind of need to know what's going on with this bishop and what's going on with this priest. You know, we need more information here. Where are you at in your investigation? What did you find? Did you even do an investigation? I don't know. Did he even try? I said Andy Taylor. It's Andy Griffith. I'm sorry, y'all corrected me on that. Yeah, Andy Griffith. He's always talking about Raleigh. Him and old Barn and Ange. Always talking about Raleigh. Well, I'm grateful that the Dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life recently entrusted the governance and oversight of the Arlington Carmel to Mother Mary of the Incarnation, president of the Association of Christ the King. We're going to hear from her in a moment. She's the new prioress, according to the Vatican, of which the Arlington Carmel is a member. I am also grateful to Mother Mary of the Incarnation of the Association for accepting this extraordinary responsibility entrusted to her by the Holy See. but the nuns haven't accepted it. So everybody's accepted it. Pope, bishops, the Pope, the bishop, the association, the new prioress, everyone except the convent. This appointment by the dicastery offers Mother Teresa Agnes the opportunity to seek restoration and recovery, to live as a faithful member of the Carmelite order in accordance with her religious vows, but without the burdens of leadership that come with the office of prioress. Yes, it does give her a second opportunity to live in accordance with her vows as a nun in the Carmelite order, though not being a prioress. Yes, it does give her a second opportunity, but it looks like that second opportunity is being blown right now before our very eyes while they continue to say, we're not going to obey the church. So, yeah, she has a second chance, but doesn't look like she's going to take it. It will also ensure that all the nuns within the monastery can be heard, rightly cared for, and nurtured in their religious life in full communion with the Catholic Church. As their bishop, I stand ready to pastorally assist the nuns of the Arlington Carmel. I don't know how. I could never respect them after this. I don't know how you do that, Bishop. I don't envy you. I'd never want to lift a finger for them after all they've done at this point. And so you're a better man than I am. I can only pray and hope to be like you one day, because I wouldn't want to have anything to do with them. Wow. Can you imagine after the way they treated him to then go and like go to their monastery and pretend like everything's cool and then, you know, celebrate liturgy with them, give them communion. Can you imagine? I don't know how you could recover from that. It just would never be the same again. You know, I wouldn't be able to smile in their face. I wouldn't be able to shake their hand or whatever the proper etiquette is. I wouldn't be able to do anything. I would just, the whole time. How could you? That's what I'd be thinking and saying. How could you? But hey, you know what? If people just repent and have a massive about face, I could see some real restoration happening. I mean, if they really just, 70 times 7. Yeah, you know, if somebody just really says, oh, I was so wrong, and they set the record straight, they right their wrongs. Yeah, okay. I could work with that, but I don't think they're going to do that, Bishop. I don't think they're going to do that. So I have known the Carmelites for more than 30 years, during which time I've prayed with them, offered mass for them, and relied on their prayers for me. Their example of prayerful fidelity has for many years strengthened the mission of the Catholic Church in North Texas. I ask the faithful of the Diocese of Fort Worth and all people of goodwill to continue to pray for the Catholic Church in North Texas, including the Arlington Carmelites, as we persevere together in the service to Christ by ministering to our community. Well, that's all nice, but what I really needed to hear from the bishop is, what's the next step here? I mean, it's clear they're not listening. It's clear they're not accepting. So what's the next step? Maybe he's just strategically waiting on telling us what that next step is, to see how they respond to the rejection of those appeals. Okay. All right. We have one thing left here. Statement to the faithful of the Diocese of Fort Worth regarding the Holy See's decree entrusting the Arlington Carmel to the Association of Christ the King. This is from the new prioress appointed by the Vatican, the one that the nuns don't accept. She attempted to go to the monastery. May 22nd, 2024, the following statement has been prepared for posting on the Fort Worth Diocesan website on April 20th with the Arlington Carmel's filing of a lawsuit against the bishop, the diocese, and the Association of Christ the King on the same day hindered its publication. However, it is now possible to post this statement since the lawsuit has been dropped. Today, in obedience to the decree of the Dicastery for Institutes Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, I visited the Arlington Carmel and attempted to present to each sisters the letters which the Dicastery had directed me to give to each individually. Unfortunately, I was rejected and not granted admittance. Yeah, they didn't let her in. You tell me what needs to be done. Those of you who are schism splainers, nun splainers, whatever you want to call this crowd, what is to be done? The bishop can't go there. The prioress that the Vatican appointed can't go there. How is this Catholic? It's not Catholic any more than First Baptist Church is Catholic. It's not under the governance of the church. Well, it is, but they don't recognize it. They don't recognize lawful authority. So if the prioress can't go, the bishop can't go, if they're not listening to the Vatican, they have no further appeals unless they just do a complete 180 and say, sorry, okay, we're going to listen. Unless they do that, this is not Catholic. It's schismatic. What else would you call this? And I'm amazed there's still going to be people who schism-splain this and defend it and say, yeah, this is Catholic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. Mm. Yeah. She continues. April 20th, 2024, during the Paschal season, Holy Mother Church places upon the lips of her children praises to the Paschal mystery of victim, Jesus Christ, our Savior. The liturgy sings of the new life and hope given to mankind through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. How fitting that at precisely this time a renewal of life be undertaken within the hearts of all who believe in Christ, and to the matter at hand within the Carmelite Monastery of the Most Holy Trinity in Arlington, Texas. Traditionally, religious life calls its members to the conversio morum, a daily greater conformity to the pattern of life shown to us by the incarnate word. The primitive rule of the Order of Carmel does no less, setting before its members the ideal of a life lived in obedience to Jesus Christ, serving him faithfully with a pure heart and a good conscience. However closely we have been following him already, we can and should daily strive to make yet another greater progress in our discipleship of Jesus Christ. Within the context of a properly contemplative life, the constitutions of the Discalced Nuns, the Order of the Most Blessed Virgin Mary of Mount Carmel, enshrine this ideal as the kernel of Carmelite religious observance, charging the nuns to strive to make progress each day in divine intimacy by means of conversation with God, converting their whole life into prayer. This is all great, but honestly, I feel she should have given them a brief catechesis on what schism is and what the church is. I feel like that would have been a little bit more relevant, but this is good. I know that the nuns of the Carmel of the Most Holy Trinity in Arlington cherish this. I don't know about that. Their Carmelite way of life, and I know that the sisters cooperating generously with the grace of God, I don't know about that, are themselves the best resource for the renewal that will deepen their community's peaceability and tumultuous year. Their professed desire is to be faithful to the vocation given to them by God. I don't know about that. In his mercy. The nuns wish to live fully the Carmelite tradition, praying as St. Teresa herself prayed and following her inspired teaching. I don't know about that. So as to arrive at union with God for the benefit of the Holy Church and for the salvation of countless souls. Yeah, I don't think any of this actually applies to them. I think she's, sounds like she's a great prioress. Sounds like she's a little overly hopeful, though, of their disposition and situation. Their intention in joining the Association of Christ was precisely so that they might continue to pursue and attain these ends in company of our member monasteries with whom they feel an affinity. We are grateful, therefore, to be able to assist them in fulfilling their holy desires by accepting and laboring to carry out the decree of April 18th, by which the Dicastery for the Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life has entrusted the Carmel of Arlington to the Association of Christ the King. Undoubtedly, the Arlington Carmel is a blessing and a source of grace for the Diocese of Fort Worth. I don't know about that. I pledge to do all I can to preserve and increase this blessing for you, the faithful of Fort Worth. I know that your bishop, His Excellency Michael Olson, has your good and the good of the sisters at heart now as always. I thank you most sincerely, Bishop Olson, for your unstinting solicitude for and generously to Carmel, for all you've done and for the support you have pledged as future assistance to me in carrying out this task now entrusted to me by the Church. I ask of you, the faithful, your prayers and sacrifices for the reward flourishing of the Discalced Carmelite life within your diocese. May God and Mary reward you under the mantle of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, Mother Mary of the Incarnation, President of the Association of Christ the King. Sounds like a good religious sister. Sounds like a great um, prioress. Sounds like a great selection by the Vatican. She sounds spot on. I think she's overly hopeful of the community, but I mean, I can't fault her for that. Sounds good to me. And they wouldn't let her in. Wouldn't even let her in. Can you imagine that? Wouldn't even let her in to talk to her. What? You wouldn't even let this lady into your convent? Are you kidding me? They need to lay the law down on them. Back to Ashley says, I feel like it takes a lot of guts to call a group schismatic to their face. I know it's easy for you, Michael, because you do this all the time, but most people aren't. I don't care. I don't care how easy or hard it may be. Those who are responsible for their souls have that duty. And so, it is what it is. It's the job you signed up for. As a bishop, it's the job you signed up for. You accepted that job. It's kind of like if you're a manager of a store or a company or a business, you got to hire people. You also got to fire people. You have to have those awkward conversations with people, bring them in. So we need to talk. Well, I'm just going to cut to the chase. We got to let you go. You got to have those conversations. It might be painful, but you have to have those conversations. And so, I get it. It might be awkward, but it needs to be done. As for other people who don't have immediate care for their souls, it should be pretty easy to call this out as schismatic. I don't know what's so hard there. So yeah. Look, I'm all in favor of giving people leeway. I'm all in favor of grace. I'm all in favor of giving people second, third, fourth chances, all that. But people who are sincerely trying, not people who are just completely thumbing their nose at lawful authority and consistently doing that and creating other problems too. With that, no. There is a phrase that I heard from my Protestant days that I actually think is accurate, even though they sometimes twist it with their false understanding of the gospel. But it's actually true considered in a certain way, and I'll show you how it's true here. Grace to the humble, law to the proud. Now they twist that phrase and have a heretical understanding of justification and grace when they use it. But the point here is that if a person is humble, they're trying, grace. Don't throw the law at them. Give them grace. But if they're being prideful, they're not being humble, they're not being sincere, they're not trying, give them the law, not grace. Especially not after they continue to do it over and over and over and over and over. No. It's for the good of their own souls that you excommunicate them. Because they need to see how serious their actions are. That's what St. Paul says. And not only for them, but also for the sake of the rest of the body, so that they're not infected by this disease in the church. That's how Paul speaks of it, a disease. These dissenters in the church, he sees them as a disease infecting the body, and sometimes you have to cut off the arm. It might be an extreme measure, but cut it off before it infects the rest of the body. Also, to prevent scandal. And also so that others don't feel like, oh, well, if they can get away with it, I guess we can too. At some point, you have to engage in real and sometimes severe church discipline. I'm not saying it's the first move. Excommunication is not the first move. Of course not. But we're there now. You won't let the prioress in. You won't let the bishop in. So you won't listen to the local bishop. You won't listen to the Vatican. This is not Catholic at all. If you want to be a schismatic group, I don't think that's right, but they have that ability to do that, but they don't get to retain the title Catholic in the process. It would be like saying, you can put on the website of the local diocese here, the Diocese of Shreveport. Put on the Diocese of Shreveport under parishes, right? Under parishes, when they go to look up a Catholic church in the Diocese of Shreveport, let's list First Baptist Church there. A pastor who doesn't recognize the Pope, doesn't recognize the local bishop. Yeah, we're gonna list, First Baptist Church, First Presbyterian Church right there. No, they can be First Baptist Church, they can be First Presbyterian Church. They can't be Catholic though. So the nuns can be First Carmelite Nun Monastery of Arlington, whatever. They can be whatever they want, call themselves whatever they want. They can't call themselves Catholic and do this. And, I suspect the bishop's going to have to do something about this. I mean, obviously, this is a situation that can't just continue to continue like this. And I suspect that he's kind of waiting to see what their response to the Vatican is going to be, giving them as exhausting all opportunities, as he should, as the bishop, as he should, giving them every chance so that they can't come back and say, well, you didn't give me this opportunity. Okay, you have an opportunity to turn around. So the nuns have an opportunity to turn it around right now. But they won't if people continue to tell them they're justified. If people continue to talk in their ears and tell them, oh, you're so right about this. You keep fighting that power. Fight the power. You fight that local bishop and that corrupt Vatican. You fight them. You're doing the right thing. They're not going to change if people keep gaslighting them and feeding them this nonsense. And you'll notice that's what a ton of people are doing. I mean, have you seen a whole lot of people say to this community, you're doing the wrong thing? No, it's been the opposite way. Most commentary I've seen on this is against the bishop and in favor of the Carmelites. So they're not going to change as long as people continue to feed them lies, and the voice of Satan continues to whisper in their ears through these people. It's possible, though. It's possible there will be some 180, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Whenever I hear a response, I'll do another stream and update y'all. And let's hope there's some good news, but, I just don't suspect it will be good. And I think at that point, the bishop's going to have to do what he has to do and have that tough conversation that, employers may not like to have with employees who are about to get fired. Not that they are employees, but you understand the analogy. All right. Looking through the chat. Priests promoting their false prophecies and apparitions. Didn't they have some dealings with Vigano too? Mark my words. Mark my words right now. I suspect what's going to happen is they will reject what the Vatican has said. And sooner or later, and I would suspect very soon, they'll start coming with the nonsense about, well, maybe Francis isn't the Pope. Because, again, the Vatican's not giving them what they want. And they already have the Sedevacantists yapping in their ears, feeding them nonsense. It's only a matter of time. They're going to say, well, Vatican didn't back us up. I guess it's not actually legitimate. Maybe Francis isn't the Pope. Right now, they've said, well, Francis is the Pope. But let's see how long that lasts now that Francis's dicastery didn't back them up. Let's see how long that one continues. I don't suspect it's going to be there for very long, especially if they have any dealings with Vigano. Okay. All right, let's see here. Looking through the chat. The fact that the Vatican has given a judgment against the woman will make the schismatics fight even more. Yeah, and it's going to give more fuel to the fire that Francis isn't the Pope. Not saying they made the wrong decision. I think they made the right decision. I'm just saying they'll use that as justification. Truth says, I suspect they will ally themselves with the mission of divine mercy. That's interesting. Excommunication is a medicine. The church has always taught this. Yes, that is scriptural. Got to be charitable until there's no more room for charity. Then comes the inevitable discipline or dismissal. I agree. I agree with that approach. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't think that the first reaction needs to be like severe discipline. No, certainly not. But I think we're way past that point, right? I mean, we're at that point where it's necessary to go ahead and cut this group off if they don't repent. Some people are saying they think this is a land grab. Yeah, I'm familiar with some of those wild people out there with those commentaries. They're the same ones who have said that I defend demon worship. There's something either mentally unstable there or spiritually unstable, one of the two. They usually have very bad takes. I know who you're talking about. Okay. Are Heralds of the Gospel solid group? I don't know, not ringing a bell offhand, so I can't comment on that group. I apologize. I'm sorry, I'm not able to. Can you review Blue Collar Catholic's recent video on his priest biting a woman, desecrating the Eucharist, and refusing further communion? What in the world? Are you saying the priest bit a woman who desecrated the Eucharist? What? I'm sure I'm misunderstanding something here. I don't know about the situation. But maybe I can look into it if there's a need. Anthony says a land grab. Yeah, they say all kinds of wild, silly things. I don't know how anyone can say the bishop is persecuting them when in fact he said over and over what he wants, and that is the final solution. More than what he says, I would just point to the actions. Compare the actions of the nuns versus the actions of the bishop. With nuns, I hear false claims with no receipts. With the bishop, I hear true claims with receipts. And those receipts always overturn the false claims. It's clear cut at that point. If one group continues with claims but can't justify them, the other comes with claims and has backing for their claims, and the evidence that they present overturns the false accusations, it's open and shut. And from day one, it seems it's been open and shut here. The priest bit her. What? Excommunication be at the last resort, but sometimes it's necessary. I agree. It should be last. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely shouldn't be first. It should be the last measure. Hmm. But what else is there? In this situation, honestly, what other option is there? I'm open to hearing alternatives. Um, a woman called it cookies and grabbed a bunch of the hosts and crumbled it. Okay, she's obviously wrong for that, but biting her, I don't know how that is the right response. Um, I don't think biting her is the right reaction. Obviously, something needs to be done, but not biting her. That just doesn't sound right to me. Maybe I'm missing some information here. Was the priest also dismissed? Well, it seems like there hasn't been an answer on what has gone on with the priest. He didn't comply, according to the bishop, with the investigation, and his bishop, doesn't appear to have released any information on an investigation. So this Bishop Olson, is asking for transparency. Something is going on there. That doesn't sound right. The woman grabbed a heap of goats and crumbled them, calling them cookies. A heap of goats. I thought we were talking about the Eucharist. Right. And that's obviously wrong, but I don't know about biting her. I don't think biting her is the right way to respond that. He bit her because she was mangling all the hosts. Yeah, I don't think biting her is it though. So we're still not to the point of how does biting someone, like, I could totally understand stopping somebody, like physically stopping them. I would do that with my hands. I wouldn't do that with my teeth. That's what's throwing me off here. The full video shows the woman initiated physical. Irrelevant. It still doesn't get us to, okay, yeah, let me bite her. The biting part is what I'm not seeing that. Like I would stop them with the hands. I don't know about the teeth though. I can't say that would be my first go-to reaction. Yes, let me bite her. Oh boy, I need to. Dare I take a look at this situation? I don't know if I want to. Sounds like she's not mentally well. If his hands were busy with the consecrated host, maybe his mouth was the only way of disarming her. Maybe. Okay, I can see that. Maybe. I see where you're coming from with that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, maybe, you're busy here, so you're it just doesn't sound right, but I can maybe see that. That would kind of make sense. Um, yeah. I guess I need to take a look. I don't know. I don't know if I want to see this, to be honest. CNA, the only defense that I found to defending something that for all of us, is sacred was biting her. I've recognized that I bite her. I'm not denying that. Father Rodriguez told me. Look, I'm all in favor of the bishop stopping her. The priest stopping her physically. I'm still just, unless it's that situation you'll mention, I don't see the biting. I would just like physically stop her with my hands. But again, maybe his hands were, busy holding the chalice and Eucharist or whatever. And so the only thing available was his teeth. All right. Okay. I guess I can see that. I guess. The greater offense here is obviously not going to be the biting. It's going to be the desecration of the Eucharist. That's the greater offense. However, from the way you're describing it with the comment about cookies, this sounds like somebody who's not mentally well. DeBear says, I don't believe biting the laity is against canon law. He's defending the host tooth and nail. Yeah. Apparently he was holding the container so his hands were free. I could see that now. That makes a little bit more sense. With that bit of information, I can see how the teeth became involved in this affair. Yvonne says, wait, I just started watching and we're talking about biting people. Yeah, you missed it. You need to go back, rewind about 10 minutes. um He said he was out of hands to defend the host. That makes sense then. Okay. I was just missing that bit of information at first. So my reaction was just like, I don't see where the teeth are coming into this. Michael, you made me laugh out loud. Come on, you make us watch those awful food TikTok videos. Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I don't want to see a lady desecrating the Eucharist. Like, I don't want to watch that video. I don't know. That upsets me. CNA finally reporting on Cardinal Fernandez meeting with the Coptic Pope. Have y'all noticed something? It could be coincidence. But have y'all noticed in a lot of these situations that others don't comment on, when I do a show on them, all of a sudden you start to see news reports about them? I'm just saying. Could be coincidence. But I've noticed that there tends to be silence on something until I do a show on it. And then I start to notice the news machine and the usual suspects starting to weigh in on the situation. Again, could just be coincidence. No one can accuse the priest of not believing in the true presence or being lukewarm. That's true. Yeah. At least he didn't drop kick her. Yeah. I get it. I've chased people around who tried to walk away with the Eucharist before. When I was in Rome, one person tried to do it and they immediately stopped her. I've seen that multiple times. Another person at a local Novus Ordo tried to walk away with it, and the priest went after her. It was epic. I went after the liturgy and told him I really appreciate that he did that. I just watched a news video on it. The lady came to an earlier mass, didn't know the process, and was denied communion. She then returned to another service and tried to take the host by force. Sounds like there's a mental problem there. Yes, I noticed after your video on a trans hermit a day after the usual suspects made videos, they're watching it. It's not just that. It's a lot of these. I've noticed that when I do the commentary, then they will come in and say something, but not until I say something. I don't know. Again, that could be just coincidence. May the nun repent. What's next on the schedule? Tomorrow, Lewis and I are going to review Dr. Bart Ehrman and Dr. Javad Hashmi's course on the Bible and the Quran, and whether or not, or in topics related to violence in the Bible, violence in the Quran, textual transmission of the Bible versus textual transmission of the Quran. We're going to review that, so stay tuned for that. CNA reporting on this biting incident. I guess this woman was seen with her partner. I don't know. I have not looked into it. That is church property. Those live in, they can be kicked out. Hornet's Nest. Okay. Review of the biting priest is on the schedule. I don't want to see a lady desecrating the Eucharist. Like, that angers me. I don't want to see that. If there's really a need for me to review it, I will do it. But I don't want to watch that video. But it sounds like there might be a need to address it. Kelly says, one of the priests in my parish went after someone who walked away with the Eucharist. She was in line in front of me, and I was really confused when he told me to wait and went after the woman. Yep. Shell, I'm here. What did I miss? You know my line about that, right? I love when people come to the end of the show and ask me, what did I miss? All right, that's going to do it. I'm going to tap out now. This was my 5th show, so I'm done. All right, I will see y'all tomorrow around noon, 12 p.m. Central for that review, and we'll see about this other situation. All right, hey, hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm trying to get to 100K. Almost there. We're currently at 98,848. So, not far away. Need to get there, though. So, help me get there, and we can have a big celebration stream. All right. We'll see you later. God bless.
For a little girl growing up Catholic today, will she ever participate as a clergy member in the church?
No.
He shut that down. Hey friends, do you want others to discover why the Catholic Church is the church that Jesus established? And do you want to help people make sense of all the confusion in the Catholic Church today? Help contribute to this mission by supporting Reason and Theology at patreon.com/Reason and Theology. By doing so, you'll also get access to exclusive content for patrons only. Also, if you want to deepen your faith, there are free ebooks and even courses that you can sign up for by visiting reason.podia.com.